Okay, welcome everyone. You are live in Chicago with George Webb Swigert and Task Force right over here. Task Force will join me soon, hopefully. She's no, can't see anything. It says I'm live. It says I have viewers. So I'm going to keep going while it says I have viewers. Task Force, just say something just so the fans at home can, but very loud and very close over here.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and all of
That's not nearly loud enough, but oh
Hello,
well.
everybody. We're in Chicago.
Can you hear me? I'm asking the crowd, can you hear me? Okay. So, lots of stories we're working on, and everyone's saying, oh, well, George, you're always working on this Awan story, and people might not get the humor that, let me know if the wind is too much. People might not get the humor with the Bitcoin. I've been trying to get the Bitcoin to Rahm Emanuel from Pakistan. And so people might not understand what I'm referencing there. So if you go back to a 2008 article, it's in a Pakistani newspaper, probably the New York Times of Pakistan, which is called Dawn, D-A-W-N. So it's interesting that Imran Awan names his new company New Dawn Corporation. But in this article, it talks about really an amazing story. If you really want to get to the details, you have to come in really close and really speak loud.
All right. It's a 2009 article.
2009 article. Right. It was a September 3rd, 2009?
Yeah, September 3rd or 4th. I'm not 100% sure about one of those days.
Yeah.
I believe September 3rd, 2009
But the events described, as far as the police are concerned, were in August of 2008, right? That's when the indictments? No?
No.
Okay.
Some.
Correct me loudly and forcefully.
Some occurred in 2008 from the information, but much of it occurred in 2009.
Okay, much of it occurred in 2009. Okay, and it was about the theft of land in Pakistan from 12 farmers, 5 of who were brothers, all between the ages of 57 and 70.
Right.
Right, correct?
Yes, you're correct.
And the person who perpetrated that crime had written a lot of bad checks.
Yes.
And that was
Imran Awan's father.
And that was Muhammad Ashraf Awan.
Yes.
Okay. Which is interesting because we published a picture today of a Muhammad Ashraf Awan, that he's up in the Sialkot. He's in a Sialkot medical
facility for eye injuries, things of that nature.
Now, it didn't look at all like the Imran Awan that was here, but there was another story in, I want to say 2009, about the Navy Federal Credit Union being cheated, and it was about 7 or 8 different credit unions, and there was a group of about 72 different people that were all using. So is that common in forgery rings and so forth?
Very common, right? Switch identities, get identity papers, constantly. That's how forgeries are committed.
So, and there will be several people, several families sharing the driver's licenses and
right. Yes, definitely that happens, whether it's families or it's just a group of a gang or however.
Have you ever had a case like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just describe it without giving away the whole? More than 5 people?
Yeah, there's times that there's a large group of people that are kind of in a fraud together, and so they either obtain false documents, false identifications, or they use each other's in some way to, write bad checks is a big part of that. I mean, that's where you used to have the checking places where you could go turn in these checks, and that would be a constant kind of fraud of having false IDs and things like that. And so it would be a conspiracy of people that would use different IDs and aliases and false documents to commit some sort of fraud.
And you looked up a Muhammad or an Imran Pervez Awan.
Yes.
And I had seen several cases where there was an Imran Pervez Awan. So, and there was a relationship to Jelani. There was a relationship to Begum as the last name. Just all these other hits. So it seemed like there's several families that are kind of overlapping and trading names and so forth. Reminded me very much of the case where the 72 people were doing the Navy Federal Credit Union. And I believe Teresa Grafenstein was the Inspector General at the time. I want to say 2009. It was in Georgia, Alabama, all these same places where we sort of have our maybe DIA operation, a total information awareness operation. And you wonder, is the total information awareness, so if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a combination of DIA, CIA, and FBI. Was that really what the $876 million contract that Peter Thiel got for Palantir? You just wonder, because it's with the Army, it's under these shady circumstances and so forth.
Actually, the Army resisted it. The Army is the one unit that forcefully were against Palantir, and it was forced upon them.
It was forced down their throat.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Army was the one branch of the military that was attempting to push back,
To push
and
away.
not
To
push
push
away
away.
from it, but it was forced kind of down there.
And when you add the fact of Peter Thiel and all of his creepy dealings with this ambrosia and wanting young blood and all this stuff, it does add a kind of a spookiness to it. Yeah, kind of we are the elites, and then these are the people, these are the deplorables that we kind of need to attack with this Palantir system. So that was the Palantir story. Now, interestingly enough, it goes 8, 7, 6, almost like a countdown. That was 876 million. And the first thing I thought of was right over here in Chicago. You can't really see it down the street, the elevated cars here, the landmark signature cars of Chicago, as much as the Green River, the Chicago Green River, and the Chicago Tribune, of course. And of course, you got Harry Carey, right, of the Cubs, and then the Wrigley Building. These are Chicago icons. The iconic Chicago rail car, the CTA rail car, the Chicago Transit Authority rail car. Rahm Emanuel wants to make in China, China, China. So there's a deal for not 876, but 843 rail cars to be made in China, China, China. And our Secretary of Commerce, I believe Wilbur Ross, has said, no, that's got to be made in America, because of the steel component is not enough to meet the tariff requirements. So they're putting literally the brakes on the train for this China, China, China deal. And literally you have Rahm Emanuel trying to push through this China, China car deal, and Trump now saying, no, I think the iconic signature cars of your own CTA elevated train. And how long have you been here in Chicago now?
3 days.
3 days. Have you seen the train cars we're talking about, the CTA cars?
Yes, I have. I've been on them, yes.
Would you want to be in a China, China, China
No,
car?
I want to be an all-American made.
You don't want China, China, China?
I
We don't
want
need...
American steel.
Yeah, they have that high, high boron or high something that makes it real brittle and shitty steel.
Right.
There's a grading thing that they were looking beyond, which was the boron content.
Yeah, there's something about Trump has talked about this. There's something about the content of the steel that they were getting that is not as quality, or it's
snaps.
porous in some way.
It snaps, yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, these cars. I mean, I don't want to be in a car that's going to snap open. You think Rahm Emanuel. Now we have Boeing. Well, you can't really see the Boeing headquarters. Maybe you can right there. I think that's Boeing headquarters. So we moved Boeing here to protect them, give them a tax haven. After having the Export-Import Bank give them a lot of corporate welfare, right? Now they want to bring in Amazon.com to give them a safe haven for their tax situation, right? So this is happening all right now. Trump tweets out this morning, right?
Yeah, he tweeted out, I think 2 days in a row now, about Amazon. And
destroying towns,
destroying
jobs.
Monopolies destroy small businesses,
Plus, there's a subsidy.
Right, and they're getting subsidized, right? And there's these unfair tax breaks, and small businesses can't keep up. There's no way to compete against that.
The Bernie Bridges lady that we were with this morning, and Task Force is more on the Trump side, and this Bernie Bridge lady is way on the other side. They had a complete agreement that businesses should pay taxes. I mean, there was just no disagreement whatsoever. And it was fun to see Task Force with this Bernie Bridge lady giving out meals and so forth. And really, these so thankful. I mean, the folks were so thankful. No one's doing this as far as the public is concerned. They're worried more about Amazon and Boeing.
Yeah, she the way she described, they're more worried about these big corporations than they are, she goes down and she has a meager salary and living, but she takes everything that she has and makes packages of things that are needed for homeless people.
Like she always has 6 meals in the back
right,
of her
in the
car.
back of her car. And when she's driving through Chicago and she sees a homeless person, she rolls down the window and says, hands them this gift.
And she made you give them the.
Yeah, she asked me to give them some, and she also goes under the bridges. So under the bridges are where
At 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, a lot of the homeless people go because of the cold, and it helps protect them. And so her passion is like, why are we're spending so much money, corporate money, on all these big things such as Amazon, when we've got a huge homeless population and veterans, especially here, who are living under bridges and no one's caring about them.
Right.
So we're sympathetic.
Yeah, and they were simpatico in being at opposite ends of the political spectrum. And I also think the interesting piece is that there's so much worry about Chinese business interests. There's so much worry about Amazon protecting them. There's so much worry about illegal immigrants coming here and having a safe haven. But that no one cares about these vets that are living under these bridges. We've seen it all 3 days we've been here.
Yes, right? All 3 days, and it's it's rampant. Where I come from, it is so rampant and so it breaks your heart. It's the worst I have ever seen as an adult, as far as the homelessness of lots of people, but vets particularly, is just horrific.
Right.
So
so we have about 173 folks. Let me address the crowdsource thing. I really feel bad for the situation with Jason. I never ever touched his phone. I never would ever delete anything. I only want Jason to have success. I've said this, I can't count how many times. How many times have I said this privately, right?
Right. You said this to me so many times. I've actually asked you
to stop saying Jason isn't the great guy you think he is. I said, we need Jason to be successful. And we need Jason to be successful. I still say that. The long form interview. I'm just afraid that if you end up attacking everybody around you and forget about the Awans, you forget about Rahm Emanuel, you forget about the Chinese, you forget about the Turks with Gulen, you forget about Muzaffar Awan, and you constantly attack just me and Trish and all these other people, the Charles Ortels and all those great guests are going to go away eventually. They don't want that. It's a bunch of noise. They don't want that. What they want to do is tell their story in a long format interview, and I think Jason's a great interviewer.
I agree. I think Jason's an incredible interviewer, and I think the most important part of all of it is it's not about who's doing the interview or even you who's out doing the work or me or anyone. It's about what's going on in our country. And
how many people have we talked to in the last 3 days that view the channel?
I don't know.
5 or 6, right?
Oh, more than that, probably 10.
Probably 10?
Yeah.
How many of them give any care at all about me or Jason or AIM?
Zero.
That's a huge zero. Nobody cares about me or Jason or Doug, Gabriel. Now, if they bring good metadata, if he brings up a thing that says, oh, this is what the NSA was, Army, intelligence was, and it was at Fort Belvoir, and oh, by the way, we have 30 by 20 Nazi things that we roll out in murals that look like they were on wheels that were used so much. That's good information. What the heck's going on at Fort Belvoir? Is that where the deplorables campaign is being based? Is that where the total information awareness, predictive crime? Let's go ahead and take his assets and predict that he's going to do something crazy in the future. We'll just go ahead and take his assets right now. That is good. So I don't really want to give a lot of time to this. My name is George Webb Swigert. Do I try to be a Jew? I just
no, you don't.
I fail. I fail. But I don't pretend I am something I'm not. I say what I am, and I believe what I am. My sister got me involved in my form of studying, my form of Judaism. I'm sorry it doesn't meet the standard of all Jews. That's really, again, nobody cares. This isn't about Rahm Emanuel being Jewish. It's not about Debbie Wasserman Schultz being Jewish. It's not about Anthony Weiner being Jewish. It's not about Imran Awan being Muslim. It's not about Trump being Christian or whatever. It's not. That is completely not the case. What the case is over here at the Chicago Tribune being a lobbyist for one particular candidate or the other. Tribune Corporation, I believe, is owned by, I want to say, Gannett, maybe? I don't know if it's owned by Gannett, but the Washington Post is certainly owned by Jeff Bezos. And these are not independent magazines, I mean, going back on it, even the hit piece on me that called me a conspiracy realist, the hit piece on me by Boberg is pretty good journalism compared to what we had lately. I mean, Trump just railed on the Washington Post today, and the gal we were with, the Bernie Bridges gal, she said, you don't need to read the Washington Post, you just need to read the Washington Bridge. When you drive by, just read the headlines at the Washington Bridge. No Amazon in Chicago.
Or a Juan Contra.
Or a Juan Contra. That is all you need to know. She calls them smoke signals.
Yes.
These are the truths that need to be sent out. Everyone should meet her.
Yes.
And these are the kind of, I hate the word patriot because everybody tries to out-patriot each other. I just say, look, go on the street, talk to somebody, say what they, bring to the table, and then move on. I do know one thing, that these cars are not made, these CTA cars. My brother, you've met my other two brothers.
I have met your other two brothers.
And
they are wonderfully nice, kind human beings.
Okay, and so you've met Bob and you met Greg?
I have met Bob and Greg, yes.
Yes, and they're good people.
Yes.
And my brother has been in manufacturing 37 years, and I'm sure my brother Greg told you about that.
He told me all about his business and his dedication and his, the stick-to-itness.
These are people who are die-hard Jan Schakowsky supporters. I mean, they are as blue as it gets. MSNBC is the only thing on in their house, and they want the CTA cars to be made in freaking America, right. Not in China. We don't need to give any more to China. 25% tariff on stuff coming in from China, this fake boron steel or this snappy, brittle boron steel, and then all of a sudden China threatens us with a $50 billion trade war. Well, bring it on, China. That's all I got to say. Bring it on. So anyway, getting back to the story that we told earlier, and those are, you never know if they're coming for Rom. Rom! No, the boat's not fast enough, Rom. The boat isn't fast enough. You might want to get a water taxi, Rom. I think Rom's making a break for it. He's hiding in that. He is hiding in the. Did you see him get in? I thought I saw a little short silver-haired guy. He had all kinds of Amazon stock sticking out of his. I think he's trying to get out. I think he was dressed as a woman. There he goes. Meanwhile, while we're arguing between each other about who's enough Jewish, he's escaping with all the Amazon stock certificates. Look at him. Dressed as a woman. Oh my goodness. So here we go. Okay, back to the bowl of Huggies. And for people who don't know what the bowl of Huggies is, if this was a story of the only movie I can think of is Grapes of Wrath. Grapes of Wrath. Henry Fonda, and he's the first scene is Tom Joad, and he's a dirt farmer, and he reaches down, and he grabs a thing of earth, and he looks at it, he says, this, it's all just dust. Dust be my destiny. He throws it out, and he goes, we're gonna have to move the family to California from Oklahoma, Ma, and they're cut off from their land. They lose all their land. They keep getting moved to these labor camps once they get to California. One of their relatives dies on the jalopy on the way out in Grapes of Wrath. John Steinbeck, classic American thing. They're treated like slave labor once they get to California. Where still today people are being treated the same way. And that's the story of these 12 people in Pakistan, where the farm has been or maybe this is a Lloyd Finicum story or a Bundy story, where the family the land has been in the family for generations. I think that great soliloquy, that opening statement that the Bundy, well, it wasn't Clive Bundy, but it was the son who made that opening statement. Yeah. And he showed just pictures of his family and just the generations that they've had this thing, and said, we're not terrorists, we're farmers. We're not terrorists, we're farmers. That was his opening statement, but it was so compelling. These are the same type of people in Pakistan that lived in Faisalabad in that little bowl. But something about that bowl of land meant it was fertile and perfect for building roads and perfect for putting a hospital there for some reason, and an opium downblending plant or whatever you want to call it. And that's what got stolen from them, huge amounts of land. So that ruined those families' lives. And a lot of the brothers ended up dying early. A lot of them, their wives ended up dying in these car accidents. We had this CIA agent go over there in 2011, this Ray Allen something. He ended up shooting 3 people. Somebody was trying to save him and ran over another guy. We don't know what he was over there for. Was he over there to get that land? It's just this misuse of government resources to just for crime. It's organized crime under the color of law, and that's what I saw in this story. And if you're not familiar with the story, it's September 3rd, 2009, Dawn, D-A-W-N, sorry, and you could look for the word Shahid Imran.
Right. Shahid Imran. It also talks about the pressure, how Imran was working for the United States government.
Now, can we find those names still? Can we find the relatives of those people?
Well, I'm sure we can try and find them.
We'll tweet those names out.
Yeah, the names are actually in the article of all these people that lost everything, and pressure was put on by Rahm Emanuel, who brought in the Iwans.
He was in the White House as the chief of staff.
He was in the White House as the chief of staff and made phone calls to State Department or whoever.
State Department, it said for sure.
Yeah, it said for sure State Department, and I don't know about personally, but there were phone calls made to the Pakistani police and
prosecutors.
Right, and all the charges were dropped, or even charges in many cases were dropped against Awan, the father Awan, for stealing the land. And then they actually
turned around and attacked them.
And attacked the victims who had the land stolen and tried to get them indicted on all kinds of stuff. So they said they literally lost all hope.
Yeah, they
in
lost
justice
all hope.
And everything, because that was their life, you know.
So this land ends up being USAID. It floods. So that's where the bowl comes in, because then everybody gets USAID. Then they plant a whole bunch of opium in there, and now they put hospitals there, so it's the perfect cover for down blending opium and reducing opium to heroin and carfentanil and fentanyl and so forth. Now, we don't know if Rahm is actually involved in that or not, but he seems awfully close. And really, if you really follow the metadata with Bean, Melissa Bean, there's a 2005 article, Chicago Tribune. Sorry, I don't want to get your face here. But Chicago Tribune right there. 2005 article, Melissa Bean. It's called Technology Goes to Washington, like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, or Technology Goes to Washington. And what they're really talking about is BlackBerries. And Imran's talking about, hey, we can have people send PDFs and it's all copied on Huma's server or somebody's server, who knows. But it all gets exfiltrated to Pakistan, you know that. Isn't it really the case with Imran that he's really been like this with Rahm? Isn't Rahm and Imran kind of been together a long time? And every place they've moved together, and they've made these other Democrats in the DCC, because Rahm ran the Democratic caucus. Is it any wonder that all their shenanigans was on the Democratic caucus server? Is it any wonder that the MIS department's in this building right here? Right here? Is it any wonder that it's directly across the street from the Chicago Tribune? Is it any wonder Peter Smith was in this building? So I just think that's where we need to be realistic about the MIS department and say, wasn't the MIS department really Rahm's hackers? Wasn't it really just Rahm's hackers? Hasn't it really been Rahm's hackers since 2005? Wasn't it a cover story, really? W. Wasserman Schultz, 2004. We may have some Ukrainian hackers here. Bob Mueller may have cut ties with a number of Ukrainian hackers. Christopher Steele did not get the payoff money, so now they're vacationing here in Chicago, which is nice to see. I wonder if it's the Cozy Bears or whatever Bears. So state your name. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to, anything I missed? What did I miss? We covered a lot of stories today. We've been really covering a lot of stories. We have more surprises coming for you today. I'll just let be known there. Okay. So I'm going to take questions for a couple minutes and then shut this down. Jason, I love you, but get a grip, bro. I mean, get a grip. You're starting to accuse me of everything under the sun. You're accusing. You got us. There has been a lawsuit filed by my brother against me and against Jason. He's going to be able to discover all of our communications. I'll give him the phone right now. Everything my email. Jason, you have to do the same. Please don't destroy evidence, Jason, between you and Jack Posobiec especially, because Dave will just zoom in on that. So don't do that. Okay, I love Doug. Doug is great. Doug Gabriel is really great because he spills metadata, all the time, and those are key insights. I think Doug did have a Q level clearance. I really do. The way he talks, just his whole parlance and everything, I believe he does. So anyway, we've got folks here that want to get a picture, so I'm going to get out of the way. And okay, SoCal says hello. I'm going to a couple more questions, and I will sign off here in beautiful Chicago. What did we miss? We covered the Rahm Emanuel and the Bitcoin. That's why I'm trying to give Rahm Emanuel the Bitcoin, because there's all this money, and because Trump's watching now, they can't use the server. Here's where I think the actual, this is speculation now, but it's not conjecture because there's no periods at the end of the sentence. I'm putting question marks at the end of the sentence, but it's working theory is that the Saipovs were recruited in Tashkent, where our man at Tashkent, who's our man at Tashkent? Murray, Mr. Murray, is it Craig Murray? Craig Murray's in Tashkent. He recruits all the Uzbeki truckers. It's a long, long way from Astana, which has got the AAA. Remember Q with the AAA? Astana itself has a AAA. That's a Q clue for people who follow Q. To drive all the way down to the border at Kashmir. Now, the Juan's Crook servers, now I didn't write about this. Wayne Rosiak wrote about the Crook servers. That was in that border town between Tashkent, or between the Stans, basically, and Pakistan. That's where I think the trucks were changed. I think that's where the opium changes over. That's where the uranium changed over. And then the Awan's had the logistics from then on. Again, the Awan's dad, Mohammed Tahir Awan, sorry, it's cold. Mohammed Tahir Awan, Channel Logistics, Space Eyes. I don't have a company named Space Eyes. Mohammed Tahir Awan has a company called Space Eyes. He has the company called Channel Logistics. Who's the one who had the company called Global Logistics just a minute ago? The wife.
It's going to escape me right now.
Yeah, well, you'll think of it. But anyway, so that's the bottom line, is that all of these things line up to logistics. They're the ones who have the BlackBerry, and I can't remember what the radar service is of BlackBerry, BlackBerry Anywhere, BlackBerry something, but they've really focused on Iridium. Again, he has this Blue Skylink company, Iridium. The reason why you need Iridium is way back in those hinterlands, in those mountains, you need the satellite connection. You don't have a bunch of cell towers. The Awan, especially Mohammed Tahir Awan, has satellites to track the Iridium. It's like BlackBerry Everywhere or something like that. I can't remember the name of the satellite service. And again, here we go with Nellie Orr getting an Iridium phone. I mean, could they make it more obvious? They'd say, well, here's my order and here's the model I got, and here I am on Facebook talking to Imran on the Iridium phone. I mean, what do we need to really point the way? Okay. I think that's it. We're going to have a couple of surprises for you a little bit later. Thanks, everybody, from Chicago.